Hello, hi, think we are live. Hi, this is Lokesh from the Soul Freedom Show. Welcome, everyone. And we have a very special guest today, Mr. Charlie Ward. Hi, Charlie, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for taking the time. I know you're a busy man.
It's an absolute pleasure, a real pleasure.
All right, great. Why don't you just tell us, like maybe, I think many people who'll be watching this video would already know about you, but why don't you give us just a little bit of your background?
Okay, well, just a very brief overview. I do an awful lot of work behind the scenes with different governments and different incredibly wealthy families around the world. I'm moving physical currency around and have done for many, many years. Um, that gives me access to, well, as I've said on a number of occasions on my journey, in the old days when we moved money around on private planes, private jets, I used to have beautiful women on there, champagne, cocaine, and it was all a bit of a party. But 10 years ago, I met my wife, so those days stopped. And now I tend to land up on a private plane with either a diplomat, a bureaucrat, or an ambassador, and security guards. The difference is when you're sat on a plane for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours with these guys, you talk about all kinds of things and you find out an awful lot of things. It's not like a question and answer time. It's just that you're sat talking. And 6 years ago, one of the guys that I do a lot of work with, an American who works behind the scenes, told me that they were going to collapse the world's economy. And I was like, yeah, whatever, you know. It went over my head. And then 2 years ago, he told me the same. They're nearly there. And he made a point of saying, well, now Trump's in power. Because he told me 6 years ago that they were going to put Trump in office to do this. This was before he got into office. And it was a bit like a tall story because I didn't really think it was even possible. But sure enough, they put him into office. So I had to start listening to what they were saying because they told me something was going to happen and it happened. And then 2 years ago, they told me that now he was in power, they were nearly ready to go. And then in November and December of last year, I was with the same guys again, and we were talking about bits and bobs. And they said, "Oh, by the way, we're going to do it this year, this next year. We're going to collapse the world's economy." And I said, "Oh, really? And how are you going to do that then?" And I was very dubious myself. And then, of course, in March, I see this virus come along that's scaring the pants off everybody. And I made contact with him. He said, "Yep, here we go, Charlie. They're using this virus to close down the world's economy." And it was clear to me that because they had the governments and the mainstream media on their side, people just listened and they didn't
Yeah.
challenge it. First of all, very, very basic principles, basic principles. I don't care how clever you are or how thick you are, it makes no difference. But if you notice, the facts are that it was downgraded to nothing more than the flu 4 days before we went into a global lockdown. And that shows on all the official websites, the official government website of America, of the UK, the CDC website, although they've hidden it so you can hardly find it. It takes me an hour to find it nowadays because it's so well hidden. And also the WHO um, website, it's all there. And then you think about the simple principle of the word virus. Anybody who knows anything about biology knows that you cannot transmit a virus. The only
Right.
thing that scares you with the word virus, and that tells you who thought of the word, is on a computer. If you have a virus, it can damage your whole computer.
Right.
But you can transmit germs, but you
Mhm.
can't. Our body is made up of viruses, but they've
Mhm.
made it sound like these things we can. If you're not 2 feet away, this virus can travel through the air. First, it's not airborne. Do your research. All I'm asking for you, for people that are awake, they're awake. But people who are not, I'm just asking you to ask questions yourself. And when you start asking questions and one don't make two, then you can start the journey of finding out what the truth is. Because I'm not a messiah. I'm just Charlie. And I'm trying to ask you guys to go out and look at the facts rather than what the mainstream media are telling you and the governments are. Because I'll tell you right now, you'll be upset to know this, but they're lying to you. And it doesn't take long to find out. When you start to find out, you'll turn your telly off. And if you want the news, you'll go onto YouTube or onto the other channels that are out there. Brand YouTube is another one. BitChute's another one. There's plenty of mediums out there which we can find out information. And I noticed the other day on YouTube that if you just put in COVID-19 at the top, it brings up all the videos with COVID-19. So you can look at the things. And also, when you've got government ministers, you know, in India and America and in England, you can tell when they're telling you the truth, and you can tell when they're not. It's inside us. We know this. We learn it from our mothers. They taught us to be honest.
I know. Yeah, I know. That reminds me of 9/11. When it happened, we know it, like, it's common sense. That's one of the things I put it in the title of this video. Common sense and karma. Like, common sense is also connected to intuition, right? We have what some people call sixth sense. And when you see it, like plane sitting in a building and it exploding, then you know something is off. It's like almost funny, right? Like how they do it. Like they think people are stupid, right? That
the truth of the matter, sadly, is most people are stupid. That's sad. It's very, very sad, because we've been programmed. We've been programmed by television and by the governments, programmed to believe all this absolute BS. Somebody pointed out to me the other day, Lokesh, that if you filled up a Coca-Cola can full of petrol, then threw it at the front of your house and it fell down, then their theory would work. But we all know that that wouldn't happen. When we all know that if an aeroplane hits a bird, it has to land in a hurry. So going into a reinforced concrete building with armor-plated glass and then it collapsing, it just made no sense. And of course, Building 7 fell down because the plane didn't even get there.
So, yeah, and that's what's happening right now with the whole COVID thing. It's almost like they're testing. They keep testing every few years. They keep testing how stupid people are. So sometimes it goes up, sometimes goes down. I think right now they're realizing, okay, half the people are still stupid. We need to come up with something else. Then they came up with the rise and now the fire, whatever it is. But I think it's like, that's what I like about this movement. What we're doing here is like a grassroots movement where we are talking to people who are not, into politics or business or things like that, because everybody needs to know this, right? So that's where, that's why I appreciate you, because you're providing this platform. I think we need more of these platforms where people, because YouTube, Facebook, they're good, but, like everybody knows, they're being, controlled. But hopefully, it's going to turn back, or some new platform is going to come up, which I know many people are working on. But ultimately, I think, like before the interview, we were talking about the communities. I think ultimately it's not about like online communities. It's, ultimately it's about human to human connection. But this is a good step to get to that community, right?
I have over 20 videos that I'm not allowed to publish of doctors and nurses giving hard evidence of what's going on behind the scenes. The trouble is you would understand this, Lokesh, it's not a job for them, it's a calling. So they don't want to lose their job. And there's a number of doctors who I've spoken to, Dr. Q, Dr. Oz, Dr. Kaufman. And all of these videos, the minute they go up, are taken down. Which tells you something. And the other thing that's very interesting that will tickle a lot of the Indian and Pakistan and Bangladesh mentality is that there wasn't I don't remember fact checkers being there before the truth came out.
I know, yeah. because everybody assumed everything they hear is a fact. So yeah, because news, the media is like, probably even now, probably 70 to 80% of the people still watch the media, the news. Even though people don't believe in the television, even then they move to YouTube. Even then, like I was talking to a friend or someone last week, and I shouldn't say friend, he's gonna kill me, but I was like, I was like, what do you watch? Because mainstream, I don't believe in it. He's like, oh, I don't watch mainstream. Like, what do you watch? It's like Wall Street Journal, BBC.com, whatever, the online, the mainstream. So again, it's because I call it the inception theory. There was a movie called Inception where you wake up from one dream, you get to another, and people are thinking, okay, just because they've gotten off the telly and they've gone online, that means everything they're online. So online is true, but that's again not true.
Yeah. This is a very, very good time to reset your moral compass and to try and establish truth. And you can only establish truth. It's like getting back to a foundation. And once you get back to the foundation of the fact that it was downgraded to nothing more than the flu back in March, that's the foundation of truth. So it's nothing more than a common cold.
Mhm.
And what they're doing with the masks, with the lockdowns here and not there, and the biggest alarm bell must have been, but it wasn't, was why was Wuhan so affected, and yet Shanghai and Beijing didn't get touched by it, and yet it hit America, it hit Mexico, it hit Europe, it hit Italy in specific. Well, I knew why it hit Italy. I knew exactly why, because I was told up front that Italy was going to be first, because that was the head of the dragon. That was what Donald Trump had to take out first. There was two parts there, which was the Venetian families were removed right at the very start, and the Vatican was empty. So those two parts meant this is why Italy was put into lockdown, absolutely rigid right from the very, very start. When you know those facts, then you go, okay. And then you start to see the Federal Reserve is backed into the Treasury, because there's three pillars of the deep state. The three main pillars are the Vatican, the Federal Reserve, Washington, D.C., and the City of London, the royal family. And then you suddenly see the Queen move out of Buckingham Palace for a common cold. You go, yeah, really? Okay. And the crest missing off the gate, and the guard not guarding it. You go, look, there's something that doesn't make any sense. You might not believe what I'm saying, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. And then Prince Harry and Meghan Markle heading off to America in a hurry. And of course, Meghan Markle, bless her, has completely backed the wrong horses, because it just shows how if you've got on the wrong horse right at the start of the game, then you're going to continue down that path, backing the Democrats and then saying she wants to run as a Democrat. And then, of course, most people know that she's been offered this massive contract with Netflix, who are crashing through the floor right now, and likely to crash considerably further. All of these things go, well, and until you open your eyes to truth, to the real truth, then things are going to crash around you on a grand scale. Right?
Yeah, so a couple of things regarding that. A lot of people say a lot of these things that Trump and QAnon talk about is in code words, right? Like some people say COVID-19 is a code word or whatever symbol for the arrest or whatever that is. They're saying they're using that as a kind of I don't know what's the right word, but basically when they say something, they mean something else. So why do they? I mean, I know they don't want to scare people that, okay, all these politicians are getting arrested, or we have so many babies on the ground. Like, I know fear is one. They don't want to put fear in people's mind, but is there any other reason? Yeah.
Look, you have to, if you look at the fundamentals of America, you have so many intelligence agencies. And if you remember, when Donald Trump got into power, he didn't use the CIA or the FBI for his own security. He used his own people. Mm-hmm. Now, just put that into your mind to start with, and then you'll understand why they're using code. So his security team doesn't want everybody to know what's going on, because the last two times they tried to introduce what they're doing now, a gold-backed currency, which is basically Nasara and Jassara. Mm-hmm. The first time when JFK was killed, brutally murdered, they blamed it on Lee Harvey Oswald, complete and utter fabrication. It was done by the CIA. The second time was September the 11th, killed thousands of people. And even if you just take the 3,000, 4,000 Americans. But you're forgetting one thing: the amount of Muslims that were killed afterwards, blaming it on them, and it was nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, tens of thousands of people died. So
Mm-hmm.
then Donald Trump he's not gone to war against anybody since he's been in power. Let that sink in. Let
Yeah.
that sink in. He hasn't gone to war. He signed peace agreements, but he doesn't want the other people, the evil people, knowing what he's up to. So everything is coded,
Right.
and very cleverly coded. And for people on his side, which is basically Q in a nutshell, it's very, very simple. It's a team of people, probably a dozen people, that work within the walls of power, behind the scenes, that he's allowing, because he doesn't trust the mainstream media. We know that. They're called fake news. So he
Mm-hmm.
uses Twitter as his personal way to us, and he
Mm-hmm.
uses these Q, which basically filters out to a number of different trusted sources in social media,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all coded. So we need the help of decoders to work out what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I was told 4 months ago that if he mentions the words law and order, it means that he's arrested somebody significant. And the last few days it's been coming up rather regularly. So we
Mm-hmm.
get these code words, and I was also told, and this was an interesting one because I wasn't quite prepared for it. You know, when you sort of believe it because you want to, but then
Mm-hmm.
suddenly you get a slap in the face to wake up. This
Mm-hmm.
happened when I asked a question. They said, "Well, if this is true, Charlie, he'll mention your son's name in his speech tomorrow." And my son's name is Justin. And he walked out 24 hours after I was told this, waving a piece of paper saying, "We've got some news just in."
Who said that?
Donald Trump. And
Mm-hmm.
this was about the employment figures.
Mm-hmm.
So it had nothing to do with Justin, but they said he'll mention his name at the start of his. Well, he didn't say at the start. They said in his speech they'll mention his name. So I was sat there and went, "Wow, is that what he meant?" And he said, and the guy that told me, he said, "I told you so." So those sort of things suddenly go, wow, they hit you like a train, because
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't expecting it to be that brutal. It was
Right.
that blatantly obvious, waving a piece of paper, and he said it twice. We have some news just in on the figures, the employment
Mm-hmm.
figures, um, and it's amazing how he puts things in. There's certain the signs that he uses when he was at Whirlpool,
Yeah.
and he's got 17 washing machines behind him, nine
Right.
on the bottom, eight on the top, and you go, that's a recognition of the 17th letter of the alphabet, which is Q. There's been a lot of things that have been said. When he holds up football shirts that have the number 17 on, 4 times that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a coincidence. And I think he said over 50 times the number 17 because somebody sent me a recording of him saying it. And it's like, well, you wouldn't use the same number so many times if there was no significance.
So
But,
basically, he's kind of, sorry to interrupt. So from what
okay.
I understand, he's basically whoever is kind of ready for it or at the same frequency as him and Junon's, they get it, but the other people, they don't get it. All right, that's what he's doing, is to match the frequency of the people who are tuned into that philosophy, right?
Well, and the lovely thing is once you come out of 3D into
Mm-hmm.
5D, it's in very simple terms, Lokesh. It's an old saying that we all grow up knowing: you can't see the wood for the trees. When you're in a forest, you can see the trees, but you can't get a
Yeah,
perspective. So when
right.
the 5D is when you step outside and you
Mm-hmm.
see it clearly as to what's going on. And then you go up to the different spiritual levels. Now, you'd know this with India. India is a deeply spiritual country. And a lot of your mothers and grandmothers are connected on levels, spiritual levels that are
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. And I've said it many, many times in my speeches. If you believe in God, ask God. If you believe in
Mm-hmm.
Allah, ask Allah. And if you don't believe in any of them, ask grandma or your mother because they'll
Yeah.
guide you. You know, they don't think for 1 minute they don't know what they're talking about. They certainly do,
Mm-hmm.
and that's so important. And then when you start to see things from outside of the box,
Mm-hmm.
and what you do, it wakes up to all these things happening because you can see it, and then it becomes exciting. And then the wake up process is lovely and easy.
Yeah, Yeah, I think, yeah, it's just, I think where people get stuck is those rabbit holes, is where, you get go inside one rabbit hole, but you just keep going. Like, for example, the whole JFK Jr. thing, like people, or even the flat earth thing, like people are so much into it. But I think what we should be asking is how's that helping people? How's that helping, you know, even if he's alive? Because some people, like, let's say, like, some people are saying October 17th there's going to be a rally in Dallas, I think, and they're going to announce that JFK Jr. is going to come back and he's going to be the vice president. I mean, it's all good to know, but I think ultimately it comes down to what is the message, meaning what is he, like, even if he comes back, how, I mean, I just want to know how you feel about people believing in these things, and how does it affect us, like how is that useful for us?
It's important to have a dream. That's important in anything in life, to believe
Okay.
things are possible. But
Mhm,
I've tried to stick to truth. I've done my
mhm.
best to do that. And truth is everything we know up until now.
Right.
Tomorrow is not truth. That's just conjecture and what we want to happen. And with JFK and all these other Princess Diana and all this other stuff, you go, yeah, that's a bit of fun. I'd love that to happen. But let's focus on the now. What's happened? So far, everything they have told me has come true. So that gives me confidence that what they've told me is going to happen tomorrow will happen. But the thing is because we're so used to 24-hour-a-day news, we're not used to just sitting back and waiting for things to happen. We
Yeah.
need to stand up. Obviously, we need to stand up against what's evil. But when we talk about whether JFK Jr. is alive or dead, I'm prepared to sit and wait. I don't need to be the first one to know. Um,
Mhm.
and the inside information I have is about the journey and as to where we're heading. And that's the important part. I know that I'm heading on a certain journey. On that route, I always put it in simple terms. If I'm driving here from Malaga to Madrid, I know the route. I just don't know what's going to happen on the route. There
Yeah.
might be accidents, there might be roadworks, there might be people with flat tires, there might be all kinds of things. There might be rain, there might be sunshine, there might be
Mhm,
snow. We just don't know what will happen on the journey. But the adventure is what happens on the journey. What we do know is where we're going.
mhm.
And let's enjoy the journey instead of what's going to happen around the next corner, what's going to happen here, and how about this. I think it's important to know where we're going. We're
Mhm,
going to Madrid, but on the journey there, the excitement, we go around every corner, there's a new adventure. And
mhm.
yeah, I keep getting told that the 22nd and the 23rd are very important days. So all Charlie's doing is keeping his eyes wide open to see
Yeah.
what's going to happen. I
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen, but I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I know, because like you said, we're so used to thinking in terms of days, time, month, year, and even, like, for example, the election day, like, when God created the universe. I mean, there was no election day. There was no month or year or even countries for that matter. We just created this, and now every 4 years we go through this cycle of, who's going to win, who's going to win. But ultimately, for the universe, it doesn't matter who really wins. And it's all about, like Charlie Freak says, it's about good and evil. Like, I think you've also mentioned it a few times. It's not about one party over the other. It's about good over evil. And so ultimately, you know we're getting there. I think Trump has given us a lot of hope that it's not about the elections, the politics anymore. And so one more thing I wanted to mention is, or ask you, is like, some countries, they have this policy where politicians get in power, and then after 4 years, uh, you know they don't have to be in I don't know if I'm saying it the right way, but, like, basically, for example, there's many politicians in the US. They've been in the politics for 50, 60, 40 years. uh, but some countries, they don't let you do that. So do you think there's less corruption if that happens, like?
Well, I had this debate. I was part of a think tank the other day where we were discussing exactly this because my theory was that you should be able to be in power for 20, 30 years, but we should have the right to vote for you every year.
Yeah.
So if you mess up, then you're out.
Right.
But if you're a good politician and you're
Mhm.
good at your job, you should be able to stay there for a lot longer. But it would then we like. But then also it was pointed out to me that if you're a good politician, it normally takes 4 years to actually implement something and for it to start working to see if it's good. But we've got a number of politicians in England, and Sadiq Khan is one of them, who was put in probably more for his uh, ethnicity, from where he
Ethnicity.
comes from. Yeah, from where he comes from,
Ethnicity. Yeah.
rather than his talent, and
Hmm.
he proved to be worse than useless. And it's a shame that because we want diversity without a shadow of a doubt, but the jobs taken must be taken by the best people for the job. And this is where we talked earlier off camera about not offending people and put
Hmm.
a lot of there was a period of time where they put a lot of women into top jobs and they
Hmm.
walked away from them within a year. 80% of these women walked away because it was too much stress. Where blokes don't mind putting in 80, 90, 100 hours a week. They don't give a shit. They'll do it for fun. Whereas women go, no, there's actually more important things, my family for one, where
Hmm.
they think about, and there's nothing wrong in that at all, nothing wrong at all. But, we all have special features and characteristics in our life, and standing on each other's toes is not a good thing.
Hmm.
Finding out what we're good at ourselves is great. It's absolutely brilliant. If you look at most of the nurses, they're women. It's in their DNA. They love looking after people. Most
Hmm.
of the builders, most of the mechanics, most of the military are men because they're better suited to that job. That's not to say that women can't do it and don't want to do it, and the same as men don't want to be nurses. Um, there are a lot of men that do, but I'm just talking about the majority.
Hmm.
Um, it's allowing people to do. Every person has a place in life, and in politics, the amount of hours they put in is ridiculous. That all needs to be changed because the way in Spain, as an example, we've got 45 million people. Let's say around 40, between 40 and 50 million people. There's 600,000 politicians. How can that make sense? You
Yeah.
know, and the same in England. We've got 600 and whatever it is MPs. You don't need that many. All these
Yeah.
House of Lords, you don't need a full House of Lords. You need probably a dozen lawmakers. You don't need much more. And then
Yeah.
probably members of Parliament, you probably need one for each county, probably 40, 50. That's about it. You don't need all these. Then when you take out that, you suddenly realize you've downsized government by 95%. Then
Hmm.
you downsize the costs. Then you downsize the red tape and the bureaucracy and all the madness that goes with it. And if you look in Brussels, that's where we have our biggest problem. You've got 10,000 on 250,000 salaries and who are completely unaccountable. And you just go, really? And they've all got massive expensive accounts of like 500 to 750,000 a year in expenses. So they're nearly 1 million a person each. And these are all complete corrupt wastes of money.
Yeah. I think it's the system, they get so used to it, right? And that also brings me to a point where we're talking about Nasara Jasara, right? Some people are like, once people don't have to worry about money, because ultimately I think it all comes down to how well off we are. If we don't have to think about paying the bills, we have, things like you were saying, we can do things that we really want to do, and what we call the humanitarian projects or whatever that is. But some people, I mean, some people know what it is, but some people, will have to figure it out. But my question was more concerned around, like, when the money is distributed. So for developed countries like US and Spain, it may not be a big problem because it's easy to distribute the money, because the government, the IRS has the people's address, accounts, everything. But there's many people around the world who don't have a bank account or a credit card or anything like that. Like, do you know what is there any plan for those countries? Like, for example, people who are homeless. Like, how the governments are going to take care of those people?
It won't be for the governments. It'll be for people like you and me, Lokesh. We'll be in a
Mm,
position where we'll have more than enough money to look after everybody around us. And it will be our duty as men of this world to look after mankind and humankind.
mhm,
So it'll be those who are in a position of privilege to go and look after those people who are not so privileged. And for me, it would be an absolute pleasure to go and find homeless people and provide homes for them. And it's not just providing homes; it's providing jobs. And people say, "Well, how could you find all these jobs?" I could find you 100 million jobs tomorrow without any problem at all, because we live on a beautiful planet that has not been looked after for many, many years,
yeah.
and we could look after our own country. Um, we pointed the finger at India and said, "Oh, they're slum dogs. They're just tidying up the slum." Well, I tell you what, you start putting money into that, and you realize that when you tidy up a slum and you can turn it into a town, all we need to do is provide electricity and clean running water. That's it, those two. And then the rest they can do themselves with our guidance. They can build their own future. And the satisfaction they'll get out of building their own one small town, as Michael Tellinger says, it's one
Mhm,
small town. And
right.
Michael and I are working very closely on that project. And he's put 15 years of his life into this. And that he's worked out, he's dotted every I and he's crossed every T. And India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and I forget Sri Lanka as well, another country of beautiful people. These countries have a tremendous amount of poverty in there. We know that. But that's the place. Africa's another one. These are countries that is going to be so exciting to help, because the one thing that those countries have, they have spirit and they have a great work ethic. And
Yeah.
I said to you before we went on air about Dubai, of the top 10 millionaires and the wealthiest people in Dubai, five are Arabs and five are Indian. They work hard. And
Yeah.
when you have that, if you work hard and you've got clean running water and you've got electricity and you've got support of people like Lokesh and myself guiding you and helping you, because what we don't want to do is import from everywhere else. We want them to create
Yeah.
their own stuff, because if you're helping them with the financial side and providing power and water, then everything else becomes easy.
Hmm. Right.
But it'll
Yeah.
be our job. It'll be our job, Lokesh, not the
I
government.
know. I know. You got me thinking there for a second because I don't like to work too hard. Just kidding.
Do you know? Do you know what, Lokesh?
Yeah.
God gave us is there's two different ways we can work. We can
Mm,
work with this, or we
yeah.
can work with these.
I know. Yeah.
Manual work or mental work, and they're both very valuable.
Mm,
And you
right.
may find that you're working with your head rather than your hands.
I
It doesn't
know.
matter as long as you're working. You may well be on your computer and you may be
Right.
guiding people here and guiding people there. Maybe you'll be educating those people on how to connect with other people because you're already doing it. You're already
I,
connecting with other people. You may be able
yeah.
to help them connect spiritually. Every part is valuable. We look at different parts and go, well, I'm not as valuable because I'm not digging holes and I'm not digging this and I'm not working with my hands. No, nor am I. I'm working with this. And if I can
Yeah.
use this and this to good, then I'm helping.
Right. Right. Yeah. So there's a couple of people asking about when. I think there again. People ask about dates again. I think people ask about somebody's asking how when are the humanitarian jobs going to start in US, but again I think when we get down to dates again we get into that rabbit hole, right? um,
We do. When the actual dates, nobody knows. I'm sure
yeah.
Trump knows, but we don't know. But the most important thing is to be ready. Let's be ready to help people, whether it's Lokesh or I, to start with by communicating information to people. Because you and I, our duty might be able to help people to find out how to help. That might be what our calling is. We don't know what our calling is, but that may well be a part of it. The dates we don't know, but the other thing that's quite important is that because Donald Trump doesn't have control of both houses, he's having to do everything by executive orders. So
Mm-hmm.
once he gets control of both houses on November the 3rd, or the 4th, it will be, then he'll be in a position to move forward with vigor, with real positive action, because he won't have his hands tied at every single thing he tries to do.
Right. Um, so like I was saying earlier, let me just share. I've created this truth connector.
Yeah,
Yeah, so let me share that. Maybe it might be useful for some people. Also, it might lead me to other questions
yep.
because, like you're saying, there's so many rabbit holes we have to take care of. But let's just take care of one rabbit hole at a time. So let's see if this works. Okay, you can see my screen, right?
Yes, I can.
All right. Uh, Try to make sure if I don't know if I can see you at the same time
Yeah,
as
I can
the.
see on the side of my screen there.
Okay, cool. All right, so basically, there's this website called miro.com, MIRO. It lets you create this beautiful mind maps. They call mind maps. So basically, you can connect one thing to the other, and then it's easy to move around. Like you can, if you want to add something to something, you just, do this and start typing, and it will just create those links for you. So let me get into, so because when I was started thinking about what I should ask you, I was like, there's so many rabbit holes. So let's start with truth, right? What is truth? So there's, I feel there's two kinds of truth, like individual and collective, right? So, okay, so I'm gonna take about 10 or 12 minutes to go over this and we can go from there. So truth, I think there's collective truth where we have the beliefs that we have, like gravity, earth is round or flat or whatever. And then we have the religious and spiritual beliefs. And I believe that death is, one of the biggest ones. And, like Buddhism, for example, talks about karma and reincarnation. I believe that's the biggest truth that we all need to know. And one of the biggest things that Buddhist philosophy talks about is not harming other beings, right? So one is, yeah, so not harming other beings, which includes humans and non-humans. So let's talk about those both of them. So humans, you know, who are we harming or abusing? Like nature, trees, plants, or whatever. I mean, we also eat plants and fruits and stuff, but we also harming nature. We also harming other animals. And so why are we harming them? We're eating them. We're using them for entertainment and experimentation. And then we also harming other human beings, and war and money is the biggest one reason for that. So when we talk about non-human beings, so ETs, hybrids, whatever you want to call them, so they harm. I mean, not all of them, but I should have put it here. But some of them, from what we know, like to harm other human beings. And again, they do it either for food, and that's where the whole adrenochrome and all that stuff comes in. Uh, and then there's experimentation. That's where MK Ultra mind programming comes in. I mean, because what happens is that's why I put in hybrid in there, because some people believe may say, okay, adrenochrome is, it's not ETs, it's humans. But now I think most of us in the truth community know that, you know, there's not much of a difference between humans and ETs. We're all hybrids. So that's why I've put it out here. And again, not everybody, or not even you, Charlie, nobody has to believe. This is my own truth that I've come up to. And then when we talk about harming other beings like animals, the one of the biggest cognitive dissonance that people have, where they don't want to believe. truth as it is, I believe, is what I call hypocrisy, where I don't call, everybody calls hypocrisy, where people like to eat animals. They say, okay, I need my protein. Or the other hypocrisies, I love pets, but I will still eat animals. And then if animals are killed in a certain, for example, some cultures believe if you don't kill the animals, don't, if you don't give pain to the animals before killing them, if you kill them instantly, it's fine with me. Or some people believe the other, if you kill them slowly. So it's just those different, I would call them excuses, but it's really hypocrisy. And then I have this quote from Cesar Chavez. He says, "We need, in a special way, to work twice as hard to help people understand that the animals are fellow creatures, that we must protect them and love them as we love ourselves." And I'm not gonna play these videos. I have some links here. I'm gonna post this. There's a lot of videos on YouTube where where they talk about animal abuse and experimentation. And I think we all should see that at least once, because I played it in another podcast, and some people are like, "Oh, why are you playing it? We know this." But I think we need to see it, to believe it, to see what's really going on. Um, and then the other aspect of truth is the individual truth, which I believe is more important than the collective one. I think they're both important, but okay, so let's get to individual. So, individual truth, people come to those individual truths from facts, and then for facts, they either do research or actually, mostly it's research, but I put this critical thinking and cognitive dissonance here because even if some people see the facts, they won't really believe it, and that's cognitive dissonance. And I like to call it black or white thinking. Like once people make up their mind about one thing, they would, they won't want to listen to another thing. And Donald Trump or many politicians are a good example of that. Is like once you made up your mind, they find every excuse to just say bad things about that person. I'm not going to go into that, but so research, there's two sources. One is authorities, and biggest one is the government, and then government has the secrets. For example, all the money, technology, UFO stuff, and they kind of like to hide it from the government. They also like to put fear into people's minds, and then uh, they have laws around it, and then they also give excuses to people that, oh, people are not ready to hear this stuff, or there's an invisible enemy that we're dealing with, and that's why war is necessary and terrorists exist, and there's a pandemic going on, you need to wear masks. And the fear was obviously 9/11, where they wanted to create wars and that they needed an excuse, so they created 9/11. And that's where Keanu Reeves was once asked, what do you think about The Matrix? And he's like, it's a documentary. It's not really a movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I've added this as well. 9/11 was a movie, so it's the other way around. People think Matrix is a movie. 9/11 is what actually happened. But actually, 9/11 was actually the movie because it was all planned and made up. And then, so talking about this excuses, I have this couple of funny memes here. When you go to a doctor, they're like, "Oh, don't worry about diet or exercise. Just wear a sock over your face." That's what I feel about the mask. They just just want you to wear a mask without a reason. And then I'll get to this in a little bit. So we have the government, and then we have the schools, which are brainwashing, and then there's Hollywood that's brainwashing. But there's also hidden truths in Hollywood, Matrix, Inception, and there was another movie called Lucy, which like one of my favorite movies, where she gets these special powers. And I think she uses some substances, but I think we can all get to that without any substances. All right. So authorities, so main thing about authorities, I would say is we're giving our power away. It's not that, for example, let's say mask is an example, like, they're not coming to people's houses or going on roads saying, oh, you should wear mask. In fact, I've gone to many stores without wearing mask and nobody says anything. It's just that people have this fear in their mind, and that's where I feel it's just we're giving our power away. And that's where it gets to more of a spiritual stuff, is the universe is mirroring us, and that's what law of attraction talks about. It is like, if we are afraid of something, we're going to get more of that. So if you're afraid of the police or the government, they're going to give us more of the fear, and the mostly the fear. Yeah, does it make sense so far?
Yeah, very much so. It
All right.
lays it out clearly so people can understand what's actually happening. Because a lot of people don't know what's happening.
Right, right.
They don't, and I think one of the biggest shocks will be to people. You mentioned briefly there 9/11. When people wake up to the fact that it was done by the CIA, it was done by the Americans on the American people, that'll be a huge wake up call to a lot of people. As to the reasons why it was to create war between Christian and Muslim countries. That's why it was done, to create fear. Um, and a lot of there's always been they very conveniently say, well, you're a conspiracy theorist, but that's what they hide behind.
Mhm.
They hide behind that. That's it's a word that's been created to discredit us. Um, but you don't have to believe Lokesh. You don't have to believe me. Go and do your own research. Go and do your own research, and then suddenly you'll find out the truth. And that's all we're asking you to do.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my whole point of creating this, is we have our own truth. So people start thinking when somebody's telling their truth, either they have to take it for what it is or discredit it. It doesn't have to be. We can do our own research and come up to our, for towards our own truth, and it doesn't have to be against another person or group of people, right? So
You you
I,
you made a point of it earlier on as well. I can't remember if we were on live or not, but the amount of people that they say, okay, well, I'll stop watching CNN, but I'll now watch another news channel like the BBC. So, and this is where they don't think for themselves. It's out of the frying pan into the fire, rather than looking deeper, rather than mainstream media, because there's only 6 owners worldwide of the whole mainstream media, and they're all pumping out the same drivel and the same rubbish. So you have to
Mhm,
look outside of that to find the truth. But you
mhm,
get this mentality. Well, I'll stop watching CNN and I'll watch BBC World News. It's the same owners, it's the same controllers, it's the same people. So it's the same
right,
story.
right. So the final part of this is the research comes to truthers, what we call truthers,
Yeah.
and yeah. So there's two kind of truthers. I think one is the whistleblowers who are actually who've been there, done that, who actually know the insiders, right? So again, I believe there's two kinds of whistleblowers. One is who've actually been there, done that, who have the facts. But again, there's people who've been brainwashed or mind controlled. So again, it's hard to again. It's one of those things you would never know. Like when somebody's saying something, it's again. I'm gonna get to another big part of this piece, which is intuition. But let me
Mhm.
quickly get through that. This is the whistleblowers, and then there's dot connectors, what I call, or the truth connectors, where some people are connecting dots randomly. They just see a photo of Trump with Jeffrey Epstein. They think Trump is bad, or they see someone has a white
Yeah.
rabbit next to him and they're bad. Actually, I have a white rabbit. I kept it here just like just to prove the point that I'm a good person, but I have a white
Exactly.
rabbit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah. So they just want to randomly connect things. And then we have some, in the financial industry also, We have people, what they call in the cryptocurrency world, they call them maxis or maximalists, who just want to go one path. Like if they believe in Bitcoin, they will just start saying bad things about other things, and they, and then same thing with XRP. And I believe even they're maximalists in this, just who go overboard with it. They're just waiting for things to happen. I believe they're kind of a little bit of maximalists too. And then there's dot connectors who are called the QAnons, who believe in symbols, numbers, signs, insider information. And again, some of them are again maximalists, who think that Trump will save the world, or they think Bitcoin will destroy the banking industry. And then there's some hopefuls, or people who are addicted to hopium, who keep believing in new theories. And it's like rabbit hole. It's not, just doesn't help anybody. And I believe, again, some people may not like this. People, I'm sure I will get a lot of hate for this, but that's just my truth. One last thing I want to get to is this part, which is very important, is when we get to the individual truth, right? I think some people forget this part of it, which is intuition. And intuition has three things connected to it. One is inception. What I'm using the movie Inception as an example, where when you wake up to one truth, there's always another truth to get to. It's not that once you get to a truth, you're done, right? And that's what, like, some people say, oh, we're already in 5D, but then they stop working on themselves. That's, again, it's a trap. It's, again, I don't believe in that. I think Inception is probably one of the, I think Matrix was good, but I believe Inception has a much more spiritual meaning, at least for me, where it made me realize, even if I wake up, there's more to wake up to. And then, so that's intuition. And then the other main aspect of intuition is going within, which is, I believe, music and comedy are big parts of it, and also meditation. So meditation means just being aware of who you are, what you're doing, and breath is one of the biggest things. Taking deep breaths, especially, even if it's for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. And then prayer, of course, and big part of prayer is surrender, meaning, okay, even if I've tried my best, even then there's a higher power that's taking care of the universe. And then another big aspect of going within is nature, and I believe sunlight is a big part of it, which, again, with this whole lockdown thing, there's a lot of people at home, and I believe it's going to help. And I think even Donald Trump said it, that even for the whole coronavirus thing, that sunlight is going to be helpful. It's helping me. I I go out for a lot of walks. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and then one last thing is, going within is death, like becoming aware of death. So basically, what I mean by that is, this: we have a body and a soul. So becoming aware that our body's gonna die one day, because some people believe that we're gonna live forever, but no, our body's gonna die one day, but our soul is gonna live forever. And that's where we get into the theory of reincarnation and all that stuff. uh, I just put a couple of pictures here. Calm is superpower.
Mhm.
And then I think one thing I forgot is, when we get to intuition, there's also, we have to consider the fact that there's higher dimensional beings who are taking care of this whole thing. And two aspects of that are, like ETs or whatever, higher dimensional beings, and then prophecies we get from saints and priests and all those people. And that's where I put this picture of Donald Trump here, not
Yeah.
because, yeah, not because, like, not, it's not a political message. It's just because I was doing research. There's this guy called Ken Clement, I think his name is. Um, he did, he prophesized about Trump about 20 years back. There's videos on YouTube. And then December of 2019, last year, is when a lot of religious leaders from, I don't know where they came from, but they went to White House and they took this picture with Trump. And I think, I mean, that's what I feel is he kind of knew what's coming, and then all these people are helping him just calm down and stuff like that.
Well, he wouldn't be looking younger and doing what he's doing if he wasn't connected to God.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And I think that's it. So, let me stop sharing. And yeah, I just want to know from you what you think about that.
Lokesh, I like what you put in there because what it does is, and what I try and do is keep things simple so people understand. And Lokesh has put together this mind map here, and so that you can look at it and understand a clearer picture. Because at the moment there's a lot of confusion and fear. And Lokesh has very kindly put this map together so you can sit down and work out in your own mind, in your own time, what is going on. Because at the moment, when you're trapped in fear, fear will kill you. But when you start to become aware, I try not to use the word awake because people get offended by it, but when you become aware of what's going on, and Lokesh has done the groundwork there to show you how you can become aware, how you can see where we are, and you go, okay, instead of going down that route, maybe I should be going down this route because that route I know doesn't make any sense. But now I have another route. It's a bit like having a road sign, a traffic sign saying go this way that Lokesh has put together. You can say, well, I don't really want to go down that road. Let's go down this road and have a look. And then it gets to another junction where I can go that way or this way, and then I can start to establish my own truth.
Right.
Uh, and before you start trying to establish your own truth, you need to reset your moral compass. And as I've said many times, if you believe in God, ask Him; He'll help you. If you believe in Allah, He'll help you too. And if you don't believe in anything, ask your mother or your grandmother because they'll help you reset your moral compass. Um, Once your moral compass is reset, when you go down these different paths, you'll see which path not to go down. And if you've
Mhm.
gone down one path, don't be scared to turn around and come back. That's where you'll grow. You learn by your mistakes in life and you become a better person for it. And Lokesh has made mistakes, and I've made a lot more than Lokesh, I promise you. A lot more. But I've learned a lot from making those mistakes on where not to go.
Yeah. Right. So let me see if I have. Thanks for those kind words, by the way. Uh, so we have a couple of questions. So question about children. Okay, so I think I get this a lot too. Last time I played, I talked about the animals, right? I got these questions about what people are. Was somebody saying children must be saved fast first, and the animals first. Never mind the money. I don't know. I think okay. Anyway, let me. So what people say is children come first before anything. Like when I say,
Of
okay,
course.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, children are our future, and it's our job to make sure that they come first. Of course, they do. That's why I'm doing my fight right now. This is why I'm standing up for this to provide my children, and in my case, because I'm 60 years old, my grandchildren. I've got 4 grandchildren, and it's very, very important that they look back and said, "My granddad stood up for what was right," because I listened to my grandpa, my grandfather's story of my great grandfather who fought in the First and Second World Wars, and it makes me proud that they fought for our freedom, and now it's our turn to fight for our freedom because our freedom has been taken away from us by an evil government, by corrupt politicians, etc., by the deep state, the cabal, whatever you want to call them. And we've got to stand up against these evil people and take back our future for our children and our grandchildren.
Yeah. So I remember a couple of days back you did an interview. You were giving the analogy of a doctor. We have doctors who take care of different things. I think what I'm trying to focus on is the animal abuse and the meat eating that's going on in the world. Like, I'm not judging people. I'm not saying, I'm a better person because I don't eat meat or you shouldn't eat meat. But I think that we should also consider the damage we're doing by eating dead animals, not just abusing them for food, but there's so many other ways we're abusing them. And I feel children, like human children, and the animals go hand in hand. Like, that's just again my view. I think they just go hand in hand.
Well, I'm a naughty boy. I still eat meat, but I'm a farmer's boy. So it became part of our
Yeah,
culture, you know.
right.
The only time I ever felt a little bit guilty is when we ate Henny and Penny because we knew their names. But for normal food, I grew up that way. Maybe I need re-educating. Maybe I do. And this is one thing that on this journey, I'm looking down every single pathway. I've been a meat eater all my life, whether it be beef or whether it be sheep or pigs, or I've even eaten horse. I've eaten dog in China. I've eaten a duck. I've eaten virtually every animal there was on the planet. I've eaten frogs' legs. I've eaten snails. The question what we need to be doing, and this is the whole thing that Lokesh is doing, is we need to be asking questions. They're questions I haven't asked before because I was brought up that way. But I didn't ask many other questions that I found out to be wrong because my parents had taught me a lot of stuff that was not accurate when I was younger. So maybe
Mhm.
these are all things that we should be asking questions. And this is all Lokesh and myself are trying to do. We need to ask questions and make our own judgments. I'm not right on everything. Lokesh is not right on everything, and everybody is different. And we can have a different perspective without a shadow of a doubt, but we need to start asking questions instead of being brainwashed, indoctrinated, and this is the only way. That's uh, that's what I would say, because I'm the naughty one that still likes to have chicken and beef and what have you. So I'm on the naughty fence, or on the other side of the naughty fence. But these are things that definitely,
Mhm.
without a shadow of a doubt, we need to look at and we need to ask the questions.
Yeah, I know. It's because, like you were saying earlier, we've all made mistakes, and also it goes back to the movie Inception. For example, I didn't used to eat meat for a long time, but I was eating eggs and I was drinking milk. And then I saw a couple of videos and documentaries. I realized the damage they're doing to the chickens or whatever, just to get those eggs. And it also kind of goes back to the government, like what's going on with the when they talk about sealed indictments, like people who have done harm to other beings, and they're going to
Mm.
be punished and executed. And it takes me to this philosophy of forgiveness. Like, many years back, I read this book called A Course in Miracles. I don't know if you've heard about it.
Yeah.
uh, so A Course in Miracles is kind of like a combination of Christian and Buddhist teachings kind of combined into one, where they talk about forgiveness is the only way for us to kind of ascend or get past this limitation of human form. And the other theory they talk about is that there's not, don't think of other beings as other beings. There's just only one of us. That's one of the big teachings. There's only one of us, and that's what I think, where we go one, where we go all. Maybe it comes from there. I don't know, but what I was getting to is, I think a lot of people who get into this hate mentality where they say, "Oh, this guy's done harm and he should be hanged and he should be executed." But I think we don't have the right to do that. I believe we we should leave it up to, I don't know if you want to call it God, but I don't know if you're trying to. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Or
Yeah, I am, but I'm going to need forgiveness soon because I've got to take my little boy to school in a minute.
Okay,
Six,
cool.
6 or 7 minutes. I've got to take him to school. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll wrap it up. So, I mean, because we were talking about because the thing I was trying to say is I'm not judging people or people who are vegans. They're not judging people who eat meat. They're, we kind of being forgiving, but I think we all have to be forgiving towards each other. That's what I was trying to get to.
no, I agree with that. And I was taught at a very young age to say sorry takes the wind out of everybody's sails if you mean it. And that's an important part, rather than just saying sorry to get out of trouble. And I've done that many, many times. I said sorry to get out of trouble. Because in the old days, when I was at school, if you were in trouble, you used to get the cane.
Yeah.
And that used to hurt. And then you get the cane at home for getting the cane at school. So sorry became a word that I learned very, very quickly to save getting the cane.
Yeah. Again, it's again that brainwashing, right? Because we're brought up that way, we kind of act the same way with others. But I think, like what you were saying earlier, we all learning, and we all have to keep educating ourselves to the new truths. And yeah, it's a great thing we have these platforms. And thanks for providing this platform, Charlie. A lot of people like me can spread more truth and also learn from you. Uh, yeah,
We learn from each other.
yeah,
Learn from each other. Every single person has something. Every single person has one little piece of the puzzle that can add in to make a beautiful picture. And there's no one piece of the puzzle that's more valuable than the other. We're all incredibly valuable in
exactly.
this journey. And when we look at the big picture, it'll look beautiful when all the right pieces are in the right places, but every part is valuable.
Right. Yeah, great. Maybe that's a good note to end on. Maybe if you want to get more into, the vegan stuff, some people might be wondering, oh, it's too hard for me or whatever it is. I can share more stuff. We can do another session if you'd like.
All right. But
All
thank
right.
you very
Thanks.
much for having me on your show.
Thank you, Charlie. Have a nice day and talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone,
You
for
too.
joining. All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you.